Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our 2024 Hatsu Banzuke review. We're not quite in 2024 in the calendar, but the basho we're talking about will be. Feels weird moving on to 2024 already, but here we are.
Yes, it does.
So
and sorry
for my
yeah. audio quality. I'm staying up at my parents' house, so I'm doing the thing all my lazy coworkers do, and just put the webcam up directly in front of the bed. Like the pandemic's been going almost 4 years, guys. You gotta figure it out. You gotta have a place to work from home if you're gonna work from home.
Yep. And Jake's doing this while traveling, visiting his parents and stuff. You're getting this episode 2 days after Christmas. Be lucky. Feel lucky for that.
Be grateful.
Yeah, it wasn't guaranteed we were gonna be able to get this so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and quick plug to the other Christmas episode that we have bequeathed unto you, the listener. I sat down with some of my best amateur sumo friends to review the year that was 2023 in amateur sumo, American amateur sumo, and dish out some awards for the second year in a row. So big thanks to my buddy Kyle Ferreter, the Sumo Punks, Matt and Sabrina, and we had Sake and Sumo. That's Caleb and Justin out of Texas. And a lot of people helped out with giving us nominations for awards to give out. I know I talked to multiple guys like JJ out of San Diego helped us out with that. It's like 3 hours of awful language, inappropriate jokes, and a whole bunch of amateur sumo fun. So go check that one out. We worked hard on that one, despite how much fun we had during the actual recording. But yeah, it was a blast, and go check that out to catch up on 2023 amateur sumo. And I will shut up because there is so much 2024 amateur sumo that I will get to later.
Yep. And looks like it's going to be right around the New Year's where we're going to get the 2023 Grand Sumo Award Show. So we're going to let the entire year happen. Let any last final news nuggets drop.
Just in case.
Well, hey, we've had a couple of big things. Chiyomaru getting married, Azumaru retiring, Kakuryu getting a Kabu and being able to open up his own stable. Who knows what else will drop
and that's
in
like the last 24 hours or so.
Exactly. So we're just letting all the news nuggets drop so we can cover that in our 2023 Sumo Award Show. And then shortly after that, we're going to turn around because the Hatsu Basho is coming. So we're going to have the preview coming out fairly quickly as well. But let's dive into this Banzuke. As I mentioned, it came out Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, depending where you were in the world, and kind of received it as a little bit of a lump of coal in my stocking for my prediction, unfortunately, which is me really just being I don't know what the right word for it is. It's not a bad prediction. Just kind of just the results on Guess the Banzuke weren't what I wanted. Sure. We'll dive into it. So, of course, Yokozuna, Teruno Fuji, going to be on the east side, going to be alone on the east side, as we all know. And if you're watching this on YouTube, as we've been doing for most of this year, we've got my prediction, and we're going to be comparing that to the actual results. If a Rikshi shows up with a plain white background, that means I nailed that prediction. If they show up with a little bit of color on the result side, it means that I missed them in some way, shape, or form. And the darker the color, the larger the miss that I had. So be keeping an eye out for that on YouTube. That's what any pops of color you might see on the result screen indicate. At Ozeki, we're just going to have each Ozeki getting shuffled around a little bit based on their record from the past basho. So Kirishima's moving up one spot from Ozeki West to Ozeki East. Hoshoryu moving up one spot from Ozeki 2 West to Ozeki 1 West, and Takakeisho moving down 2 spots from Ozeki East to Ozeki 2 West. Nothing surprising happening there.
Looks good so far.
But we do get a little bit of a surprise at the Sekiwake rank. We talked about it on the preview episode where I didn't think Koto no Waka would be able to jump over Daieisho. I was wrong. Koto no Waka does indeed jump over Daieisho for the Sekiwake East ranking after getting an 11-4 record compared to Daieisho's 9-6, which drops Daieisho to Sekiwake West. So on the preview episode for this Banzuke, I had recalled a similar situation in the Kyushu 2022 Basho, where Sekiwake West Hoshoryu went 11-4 and Sekiwake East Wakatakakage went 8-7. In that situation, they did not switch places. But I needed to dive a little bit further into my notes that I took when discussing that back in 2022. Because on the preview, I didn't go deep enough. I said, well, it only happened when a Yusho was involved. Did the Sekiwake West jump over the Sekiwake East, at least since 2011. But I was wrong because the Sekiwake West jumps over the Sekiwake East when there was a Yusho or Jun Yusho involved. So in 2018, 8-7, Ichinojo dropped from Sekiwake East to Sekiwake West after Mitake Yumi won a Yusho from Sekiwake West. The only other time that we've had a winning record Sekiwake East dropped to Sekiwake West within the past 13 years was in 2011 when a 10-5 Kisei no Sato dropped to Sekiwake West after 11-4 Koto Shogiku won a Jun Yusho from Sekiwake West.
That's so only petty. One win and they're just like, you know what? No. We're bumping you.
So yeah, it's only 2 cases since 2006 where this has occurred, but both cases had a Yusho or Jun Yusho, and now it's 3 cases. Koto no Waka had a Jun Yusho, and he's jumped ahead of Sekiwake. So I'm starting to think this might be a real solid rule I might be able to latch onto. It's obviously a very niche situation. It's happened 3 times since that instance in 2011. And the reason I draw the line there is because before it happened in 2011, it happened in 2006, and it happened a lot more common back then because they swapped the Sekiwake ranks like they swapped the Ozeki ranks.
Sure.
They have obviously stopped doing that, and it seems like if your Sekiwake West gets a Yusho or Jun Yusho, while the Sekiwake East doesn't have either one of those, your Sekiwake West will jump over. Because like I said in the preview episode, there was a case where Tamawashi, when he won his first Yusho from Sekiwake West, Takakeisho was the Sekiwake East who had won the Jun Yusho. So Tamawashi did not jump over Takakeisho in that instance, despite having the Yusho and 2 more wins than Takakeisho.
Okay, that's weird. All right.
So that's going to be the rule moving forward. Hopefully it happens sometime soon so that I can actually implement it.
Sure.
Hopefully we don't have to wait 5 years.
Either that or it's one of those things that John Gunning talks about where it's like they probably didn't care. They were probably just like, he did better. Let's just bump him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if there's if the next time an 11-4 Sekiwake, maybe it's because, Koto no Waka is on a stronger Ozeki run right now, and he had more wins, so they wanted to move him up to Sekiwake. Who knows? Maybe it was that, but I'm going to go with the Yusho, Jun Yusho thing.
Oh, it's his dad, right? He's getting favorable treatment for that?
His dad's a Shinpan, but I don't know that his dad's involved with the Banzuke as much.
I'm just keeping the stupid conspiracy theory alive if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's drop down to Komosubi. No surprises at this rank. Takayasu rises 3 ranks to Komosubi East after his 10-5 record from Maegashira 3, and Ura rises to his career high ranking of Komosubi West after his 8-7 record from Maegashira 1. You see a little bit of a C next to Ura's name in the results. That means that he is at his career high rank. So yeah, Takayasu. Bunch of fan favorites up in the Komosubi rank this time. Takayasu and Ura making his debut. Be very exciting to see how Ura does. Can he keep his winning ways up? Can he make it up to Sekiwake? That'll be interesting. All right. Zone of Death. I had mentioned in the preview how the Banzuke committee decided all of the tiebreaker scenarios that we went over in the preview would determine who would win Guess the Banzuke. And it was very probable that I would suffer death by 1,000 paper cuts on this. And at least in the preview episode, I at least got the death by 1,000 paper cuts part right. So that starts at Maegashira 1 East, where we had a matchup between a rising Atami Fuji, who was not within the Joy, and a falling Wakamoto Haru, who was falling from the Sekiwake ranks. Atami Fuji deserved to be one rank ahead of Wakamoto Haru, but Wakamoto Haru had Sanyaku bias on his side. In my prediction, I went with some recent precedents that showed a non-Joy Rikishi that was rising up the ranks could pass a falling Sanyaku Rikishi when they deserve to be one rank ahead of them. But that is not how the Banzuke committee saw it this time, as Wakamoto Haru dropped from Sekiwake to Maegashira 1 East, and Atami Fuji rose 7 ranks from Maegashira 8 to a career high ranking of Maegashira 1 East. So I'm going to say this. What was that, Jake? West. Yes, sorry. I'm going to say this once now, but just understand that it holds true for literally everything that I missed. This doesn't surprise me in the least. I chose tails when the coin landed on heads.
Yeah, and nothing you can really do about that. It just happened to happen more times than most Banzukes.
Yep, absolutely. So my guess for why this happened when in the past it hasn't. Random Banzuke committee bullcrap. Number one option.
Yep.
Maybe it's the fact that it was an established Sekiwake and Wakamoto Haru who had been there for 3 or 4 basho and competing with a Rikishi who had never even been to the Joy before, who's barely been in the top division. So maybe that has something to do with Wakamoto Haru going ahead here, when in the past we've seen that not happen, when in the next rank we see that not happen. Or it could be maybe Sekiwake right now, maybe they get a little bit more Sanyaku bias than a Komusubi does, and maybe that's something I need to take into consideration into the future. Not sure what
it's
happened.
So granular, and so
it is.
You're saying like the exact tiebreaker went the other way in the next rank here.
Yeah, at Maegashira 2, we once again had a matchup between a rising non-Joy Rikishi in 9 and 6 Midori Fuji and a falling Sanyaku Rikishi in the 6 and 9 Abi. Similar to the Maegashira 1 rank, the rising non-Joy Rikishi deserved to be one rank ahead of the falling Sanyaku Rikishi, but this time the recent precedents that I base my prediction on was correct. So Midori Fuji rose 3 ranks from Maegashira 5 to land at Maegashira 2 East, and Abi dropped 2 ranks from Komusubi to land at Maegashira 2 West. So the exact opposite of what just happened. Awesome. The only difference that I can see, Wakamoto Haru and Atami Fuji were both on the west side, so no east-west tiebreaker there. But when you look at Komusubi, Abi was on the east side, and Maegashira 5, Midori Fuji was on the west side. So it's not like Wakamoto Haru had an east-west bias over Atami Fuji that got him ahead, because Abi had the east-west bias in his favor, and he still went behind Midori Fuji. So like I said, I don't know what it was this time that allowed Midori Fuji to go ahead of Abi. Maybe it is a difference between the rank of Sekiwake and Komusubi. Maybe it's a difference of who you're competing for in that rank. Midori Fuji is more established Joy Rikishi. He's been up here a few times, so maybe they're more okay with him going ahead of a middling Sanyaku Rikishi and Abi, as opposed to Wakamoto Haru versus Atami Fuji. Maybe it's the quality of the Rikishi I need to investigate more when it comes to some of these tiebreakers.
I think you're caught in a loop here, man. I think we need to pull you out.
There's something I'm missing, Jake. And it changes every basho. All right. Yeah. At Maegashira 3 East, pretty simple here. It's Go Noyama rising 1 rank after his 8 and 7 record from Maegashira 4. This is another career high rank on this Banzuke. And then at Maegashira 3 West, for the 3rd time on this Banzuke, we have a matchup between a Maegashira and a falling Sanyaku Rikishi, and that Maegashira deserves to be 1 rank ahead of the falling Sanyaku Rikishi. This time, it's Tobizaru. He went 7 and 8 from Maegashira 3 West, the exact spot we're trying to fill right now. He easily could keep his same rank, or Hokuto Fuji, who went 5 and 10 from Komusubi. So, quick review of what we've seen. At Maegashira 1, the Sanyaku bias won out. At Maegashira 2, the math won out. So at Maegashira 3, we have Sanyaku bias winning out again, as Hokuto Fuji falls 3 ranks after his 5 and 10 record from Komusubi to Maegashira 3 West, which is luckily what I predicted in this scenario. I assumed they'd want to bump down Tobizaru at least a little bit here. instead of having him keep his same rank. So that easily puts Tobizaru at Maegashira 4 East, dropping 1 rank after his 7-8 record. And then at Maegashira 4 West, we have a group of 3 Rikishi that were contending for this rank, but only one of them was previously in the Joy in the Kyushu Basho. So for me, that's an automatic tiebreak win for them, and the Banzuke committee agreed with me in this instance. So Shodai dropped 2 ranks after a 6-9 record from Maegashira 2 to grab that Maegashira 4 West rank as the only Joy Rikishi that was involved in that tiebreaker. So that left us with the other 2 Rikishi that were involved in that 3-way tiebreaker, those being Ryuden or Nishikigi, to decide who would take Maegashira 5 East, who would take Maegashira 5 West. So on the preview, I had noted that I was curious on how the Banzuke committee would treat Nishikigi this basho. Would he be afforded Joy bias since he was forced into the Joy due to Terunofuji's absence? So effectively, he was one of the top 16 competing Rikishi. Or since he was 17th out of 42 on the overall rankings, regardless of whether Terunofuji competed, would he not get kind of the same Joy bias that other Rikishi would receive? So I decided I'm not going to give Nishikigi any Joy bias, as he would lose the East-West tiebreaker to Ryuden. Yes, he would lose the East-West tiebreaker to Ryuden. So I decided no Joy bias would overcome that. And the Banzuke committee agreed with me in this instance as well. They have Ryuden rising 5 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 10 to the Maegashira 5 East ranking, and Nishikigi dropping 1 rank to Maegashira 5 West after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 4. If we took the Joy bias completely out of this 3-way tie-breaking scenario, Ryuden would have gone ahead of Shodai. Both Ryuden and Shodai were on the east side compared to Nishikigi's west side, but Ryuden had more wins, and that typically is the next tiebreaker. So Shodai got a little bit of that Joy bias to end up ahead of Ryuden here.
Gotcha.
So I bemoaned my prediction at the start of this episode by being death by 1,000 paper cuts. But up to this point, I've placed every Rikishi at the correct numerical rank and only switched the sides of 2 of those ranks. So not really bad at all. And honestly, it's not a bad prediction. It's just not a great prediction that I had been churning out for the past 5 Banzukes. But here, starting at Maegashira 6, this is where the manila envelopes come to just rip me to shreds.
Ooh, those are the worst kinds of paper cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. The ones that you think of like you get those intrusive thoughts, you get like the manila envelope. What if I pulled that like right in between my finger webbing? How awful would that be? You've never had that intrusive thought?
You maniac, what's wrong with you?
I never acted upon it, but I certainly thought it.
That's just as bad in this case.
You don't let the intrusive thoughts win, Jake, and I did not.
Okay, right. So let's see the nasty finger webbing paper cuts of the rest of your Banzuke here.
Yeah. So in my prediction, I really struggled with how much bias I should be giving to dropping Joy Rikishi. It turns out that I gave them way too much credit in my prediction. So we saw with Shodai, he was able to win the tiebreakers with other Rikishi that he deserved to be the same rank as. And really, that's about as far as Joy bias got on this Banzuke. So Keen Bozan was the clear Rikishi that deserved the next rank, but in my prediction, I decided that Asanoyama needed to go ahead of him, despite the fact that Asanoyama deserved to be 2 ranks lower than Keen Bozan. That was not the case, as Keen Bozan rose 1 rank to Maegashira 6 East after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 7. Turns out, Asanoyama wouldn't even go ahead of the Rikishi that he deserved to be 1 rank behind, as Shonan Naomi would simply slide from Maegashira 6 East to Maegashira 6 West after a 7-8 record. Then at Maegashira 7, another Rikishi that deserved to be 1 rank ahead of Asanoyama and goes ahead of Asanoyama is Ichi Yamamoto. He rises 7 ranks to his career high rank of Maegashira 7 East after his 11-4 record from Maegashira 14. And so at Maegashira 7 West, this is where Asanoyama does land when he's basically the next available Rikishi to be placed. No bias really taking place here. So he drops 6 ranks from Maegashira 1 after his 4-11 record. So the joy bias that Asanoyama received was landing ahead of Hokuseiho, as Asanoyama would have lost a standard tiebreaker matchup to him without any joy bias. Previously, they were both on the east side, but Hokuseiho had more wins than Asanoyama, so if no joy bias was involved, Hokuseiho would be ahead of Asanoyama, but Asanoyama gets that little bit of joy bias here. So we move on to Maegashira 8, where, speaking of Hokuseiho, he drops 1 rank from Maegashira 7 to the Maegashira 8 East rank after his 7-8 record. And then at Maegashira 8 West, we have Hira de Umi going 1 rank higher than I predicted, and he gets a 3-rank promotion to Maegashira 8 West after his 9-6 record from Maegashira 11. Maegashira 9 East, Mitake Yumi, rises just a half rank from Maegashira 9 West to Maegashira 9 East after an 8-7 record. And at Maegashira 9 West, we have Meisei dropping 7 ranks after his 4-11 record from Maegashira 2. So, as is tradition, the Rikishi that I overthink the most on the Banzuke prediction, I'm guaranteed to miss, and that was Meisei on the prediction. I think this is like the second time it's been Meisei over the past year. I thought he was going to get some more joy bias than he actually did. I had Meisei going ahead of Mitake Yumi and Hira de Umi. Both of them deserved to be 1 rank ahead of Meisei, and they ended up 1 rank ahead of Meisei. But the only people that he went ahead of were the other Rikishi that deserved to be the same rank as him, which was the Maegashira 9 rank, and he just simply won the tiebreaker when he otherwise wouldn't have. Meisei was on the west side. He was competing for the Maegashira 9 rank with like Tamawashi, who was also on the west side, but Tamawashi had more wins than Meisei and would have otherwise won that tiebreaker. So really very minimal joy bias involved on this Banzuke, and we've kind of seen fluctuating joy bias over the past few basho. Looking back to the Kyushu Banzuke, Takanosho was a Rikishi that he deserved to be 1 rank behind Shonan Umi and Hokuseiho on the previous Banzuke, and he ended up going ahead of only Hokuseiho in that situation, but behind Shonan Umi. So Takanosho went ahead of a Rikishi he deserved to be 1 rank behind, which is one of the reasons why I thought, okay, maybe some of these guys are going to end up ahead of Rikishi that they would otherwise deserve to be behind. The previous basho in Aki, that's the one where I said like there was no joy bias involved whatsoever, because they didn't go the falling joy Rikishi. We had like Mitake Yumi with a 3-12 record from Maegashira 2, Midori Fuji with a 4-11 record from Maegashira 3. Both of them, not only did they fall the full amount of ranks that they should fall, but on that one, they weren't even beating out other Rikishi that deserved the same rank as them that were outside of the joy. So they truly just followed the tiebreaker rules back in the Aki Banzuke for all the joy Rikishi. So compared to Aki, there is some joy bias, but it's different than what it was in Aki, which is different than what it was in Kyushu, which is probably different than what it was in Nagoya.
Yeah, it's like joy bias it's consistent in what it does, but there's just like a slider for like what the quantity of value it has, and they just keep bumping it every time they do a Banzuke.
Yeah, and I haven't looked enough into it. I'm wondering if joy bias kind of takes more precedent when you're trying to pull people up further than they deserve or drop people down less than they deserve. When you're kind of in like, we're desperate for Rikishi to fill these spots, maybe in those situations, joy bias kind of takes more precedence, as opposed to this basho's everybody just kind of landing exactly where they deserve to be. Everything lines up real nice. And so you get a little bit of extra treatment, but you're not going to go ahead of somebody who deserves to be ahead of you.
I see. So maybe it's more of something that's like, maybe it's still a tiebreaker, but it's lower on the list of tiebreakers than some of the other things or something.
Maybe, I don't know. Or it's just completely Banzuke committee randomness. Who knows?
There you go.
Yep. All right. We'll move on to Maegashira 10. We've passed my first wave of bad misses, and then we're going to go into my second wave of perfect guesses. None of these ranks, excuse me, none of these ranks really had much question as to who would go where, which easily explains why I got all of them correct.
Turns out when it's easier, I do better. I know this is revolutionary, but
yes. All right, so we're going to breeze right through these next 4 ranks. Tamawashi rises 2 ranks to Maegashira 10 East after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 12, and Sadano Umi rises 1 rank to Maegashira 10 West after an 8-7 record from Maegashira 11. Tsurugisho rises 2 ranks to Maegashira 11 East after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 13, and Oho rises 1 rank to Maegashira 11 West after an 8-7 record from Maegashira 12. Takanosho is probably the most unlucky guy on this Banzuke. He's the only one that receives like an actual numerical rank over demotion. He drops 6 ranks from Maegashira 6 to Maegashira 12 East after a 5-10 record. And Miyogiryu drops 3 ranks from Maegashira 9 to Maegashira 12 West after a 6-9 record. And then Churo no Umi lands at a new career high ranking for him at Maegashira 13 East, rising 2 ranks after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 15. And Endo drops 5 ranks to Maegashira 13 West after a 5-10 record from Maegashira 8. Everything very straightforward there. All the tiebreakers, all the standard tiebreaker rules were applied there. Nothing surprising happening.
Cool.
So at Maegashira 14, we now hit my second wave of consecutive misses, as I just had a lot of bad luck when it came to getting the Juryo Rikishi on the right side of the Banzuke. So in my prediction, I had assumed Onosho would not be over demoted by a half rank in favor of a Juryo Rikishi. He was 3-12 from Maegashira 5. I thought a Maegashira 5 Rikishi, they're not going to put a Juryo Rikishi ahead of him, especially to over demote him, even if by a half rank, because Onosho was on the east side of the Banzuke, and if you put anybody else ahead of Onosho here, he would end up on the west side and get a 9.5 rank over demotion. Sure. But I was wrong. Apparently, Juryo Rikishi that deserves to be 5 ranks ahead of a Makuuchi Rikishi can be enough to
finally breaks through.
Yeah, that's enough to over demote a Rikishi by a half rank.
Jesus, fine.
As Koto Shoho lands at Maegashira 14 East after his 12-3 Yusho from Juryo 1. And so that puts Onosho dropping 9.5 ranks to Maegashira 14 West after his 3-12 record from Maegashira 5 East. So just had those two flip-flop. Had him at the right rank, just had those two flip-flop.
Just a teeny tiny calibration error off of how mean we're supposed to be to the Juryo guys.
Yep, absolutely. So Maegashira 15. So while I thought Onosho could it possibly be over demoted by a half rank since he was previously so far up the Banzuke at Maegashira 5, I did think that Rikishi like Tomokaze or Takuro Fuji could be over demoted by a half rank. They were lower level Maegashira. They're basically glorified Juryo Rikishi. Who cares? We can over demote them by half a rank. That excuse me, that was also incorrect. So in my prediction, I had Onosato going ahead of Tomokaze, but the Banzuke committee had Tomokaze dropping 1 rank after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 14 East to Maegashira 15 East, most notably not dropping at 1.5 ranks to Maegashira 15 West. And Onosato makes his highly anticipated Makuuchi debut at Maegashira 15 West after his 12-3 record from Juryo 5. And as you can see, next to Onosato on our YouTube video, he's got a D next to his name, and that stands for debut. And then Maegashira 16 East, it's the same story as Maegashira 15. I thought the Juryo Rikishi would end up ahead of the Makuuchi Rikishi. And the reason I thought these Juryo Rikishi would go ahead, they deserve to be 2 ranks ahead of these Makuuchi Rikishi. And they were lower Maegashira, so 2 ranks ahead. Yeah, why not? You can end up ahead of them. We've seen that happen before. But it didn't happen this time because it would have forced over demotions, which is my opinion on why it didn't happen this time. So what we got instead of my prediction was Takada Fuji dropping 3 ranks to Maegashira 16 East after a 6-9 record for Maegashira 13 East, and Bushozan is going to try to see if third time's the charm as he makes his way back to the top division at Maegashira 16 West after his 10-5 record from Juryo 2. So those last 3 ranks, I got everybody at the correct numerical rank. I just switched what side that they were on. So when it comes to these over demotions in favor of Juryo Rikshi, I'm after this one, I'm really thinking I was just too concerned with just the rank of the Makuuchi Rikshi and nothing else, because obviously that didn't help Onosho this basho.
Right.
So my reasoning, I apologize. I need to take a quick drink here.
Unbelievable. The professionalism of this guy. Hold on a sec. Okay. All right.
No, I was actually, as is like the biennial tradition, I was sick on Christmas, and so I'm getting over that. Because I think this year it was just like a simple head cold, didn't really last too long. 2 years ago, I think that was our COVID Christmas that we shared it together. 2 years prior to that, I was on death's doorstep after my nephew visited and brought.
Remember that one? He almost killed you.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, biennially, I'm sick on Christmas. Next year I'll be good. 2025, I'm gonna be sick again.
Inside joke for the amateur sumo bylaws fans. Biennially, different word than biannually.
I had to think real hard to make sure I was using the right one. Biennially means it happens once every 2 years. Right. Biannually means that it happens twice a year.
Exactly. Be real careful with that one if you're writing a legal document you intend for other people to follow as policy.
Oh no. I'm sure there's a story behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Side note: bi-weekly, bi-monthly, they can mean whatever you want. But when it comes to years, they are different words.
Good to know. All right, back to the Banzuke. So my reasoning for why I thought I was okay demoting Tomokaze and Takada Fuji by a half rank this basho was because in Nagoya 2023, Chiyoshima was ranked Maegashira 12 East, and he was over demoted by a half rank to Maegashira 15 West. And he was over demoted in favor of a Juryo Rikshi. So similar to the Onosho case, this basho, the Rikshi that Chiyoshima was demoted in favor of was the Juryo Yusho winner that deserved to be 4 spots higher than him. So when it comes down to over demoting a Makuuchi Rikshi in favor of a Juryo Rikshi, I might just need to make a rule that the Juryo Rikshi needs to deserve to be at least 3 ranks ahead of the Makuuchi Rikshi, if not 4. Also, I'm talking about over demoting, so it's obviously a Rikshi with a losing record. I was about to say, like, I'm not going to put them ahead of a Makuuchi Rikshi with a winning record. That's just, you don't do that. But yeah, so obviously it applies only to Makuuchi Rikshi with losing records. So yeah, just another thing to add to the list that I needed to keep track of, or maybe not. Maybe it was just the way the wind blew that day in Japan and how the Banzuke committee decided to put it together.
Could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
But make our best guess, gather the data, predict better next time, I guess.
Absolutely. So move on to Maegashira 17, where luckily get to end on a high note as I got the last ranking perfect. Once again, it was fairly straightforward and easy, and so everybody should have gotten that right. Shimazu Umi will be making his Makuuchi debut at Maegashira 17 East after a 9-6 record from Juryo 2, and Aoyama makes it just a short trip down to Juryo, returning after one basho to the Maegashira 17 West rank after his 8-7 record from Juryo 1. So the Banzuke extends down to Maegashira 17 West now, since we lost the 3rd Sekiwake rank in the Sanyaku, and as the Sanyaku shrinks, the Maegashira ranks grow to keep that number at 42 at all times. So we brought up 5 Rikshi from Juryo this basho in Koto Shoho, Onosato, Bushozan, Shimazu Umi, and Aoyama, which means we needed to boot 5 Rikshi down to Juryo from Makuuchi, those being Koto Eiko, Tohakuryu, Roga, Nishiki Fuji, and Kita no Waka. So take a look. How did I do on my prediction? I got 26 Rikshi at the exact correct rank and side out of possible 42 for 62%. My previous best was 79%, so a good ways off from that. I did get an additional 12 Rikshi at the correct rank, but on the wrong side. So that gives me a total of 38 total Rikshi at the correct rank, which is 90% of the Rikshi at the correct rank, which is the best I've ever done in a Banzuke, that I'm very upset with how I did overall. So it just tells you kind of how well everything lined up on this Banzuke. My previous best was 88%, hit 90% this time. So I got 38 Rikshi at the correct rank. On Guess the Banzuke, there were two people who, unfortunately for them, tied for second place. They got all 42 Rikshi at the correct rank. Not at the exact correct spot, but they had all 42 Rikshi at the correct rank. One of them, I got to tip that hat to Tim Sumo. He knocked it out of the park this time. One of two people to have all 42 Rikshi at the correct rank. First place had only 40 Rikshi at the correct rank, but they had 38 at the exact correct prediction. I believe I saw Kintamayama did a Reddit post where he said the winning score of 78 is the new highest score in Guess the Banzuke history.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So how did I do this time? If you want to track how I do and Guess the Banzuke, you can look up Ghost Shobiyama on there. This basho, I was ranked 51st out of 199 for a 9-6 equivalent. My final score was 64 overall, which good enough for like top 20-ish usually. But like I said, this one, I just didn't read the tea leaves right. I should have gone more by the math, and other people just had better reads on how the tiebreakers would be taken care of. Yeah. I was off on this one. No excuses. But
I think that several people picked their perk for this basho as the immunity to paper cuts. And I think that that's probably what you should have done.
Yeah.
Instead of dying by 1,000 of them.
I really should have thought that through. Yeah. But
rookie move. Thought you were the best.
The most important thing is that, Jake, I am still the best.
Attaboy. Yeah, bring that bad boy out here.
The best Banzuke guy trophy still says my name, and it's still accurate. I am still number one overall on Guess the Banzuke.
Yeah, the trophy still has my name on it. Because like if
it'll
you
magic,
lost with
I'm sure you put some magic on it. It'll change to whoever is right. Number one at the time. I'll have to ship it out to them.
That's how it works. One day you're just gonna get up and you're like, all right, I'm ready for work. I'm gonna walk into my office. Tim Sumo, what?
I'm not best Banzuke guy anymore. No,
what happened to my trophy?
So yeah, I'm still number one overall. Tim is right behind me at number two. But the reason I'm still at number one is because Guess the Banzuke tracks the last 6 predictions that you've done, and I replaced my 51st place, replaced a 62nd place. So my average actually went up.
So you just every January you get one freebie to like crap the bed and like
yeah. And Tim, I think he replaced his number 2 spot, replaced a number 7, so he wasn't getting like as big of a bump. But I've got to be on my best behavior for the next 5 predictions, because I'm gonna lose a 14th in Haru, a 3rd in Natsu, a 14th in Nagoya, and then 2 5ths in Aki and Kyushu. So I've got to be on my stuff. I've got to bring it much better than I brought it this time. I need to eliminate a lot of the overthinking that I did. I know in my initial prediction I had Asanoyama lower down my Banzuke. I know for a fact in my initial prediction I had Meisei down at my Gashira 9 West. I've got to find a way to stop overthinking some of these things and tying myself into knots.
Put like a 10-minute time limit on it or something like that. If you're worried you're getting in the weeds, just like hit the timer and it's like, nope, it gotta be done. Gotta go with the gut here.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is like, if I'm spending so much time and writing paragraph after paragraph, I just could be like, what does the math say? Because that's kind of how it's been lining up over these past few basho. I get like, all right, where are they going to go against the math? Where are they going to go against math? And they just don't.
It's going to be that meme of Charlie from Always Sunny in the mail room, like cigarettes hanging off his lips, pointing at like the cork board with all the twine on it and stuff like that.
You say it's gonna be like it hasn't been for the past 3 years. What do you think got me to number 1, Jake?
But that meme, that's you on your 3rd page of notes on like the Maegashira 7 rank in 1982 or something like that.
I don't go that far back. I try to keep all of my I try to keep all of my precedents within like the past 10 or so years, with the understanding that Banzuke's change, and I put the heaviest emphasis on the most recent stuff. But yeah, so if we take a look at my prediction, just from how we used to always measure it, just like how many overall ranks did I miss Rikishi by? My total misses was only 20 on this Basho, which I think it makes it one of my top 5 or 6 predictions ever from that. Like I said, everything lined up really well. It was really easy on this one to get everybody very close to where they needed to be. It is just a lot harder to get them in the exact right spot. And my worst guess on this prediction was Asanoyama. I missed him by a total of 3 ranks, or a 1.5 numerical ranks. So pretty good from that standpoint as well. The biggest jumps up the Banzuke, we had 3 Rikishi that are jumping up 7 spots: Atami Fuji, Ichi Yamamoto, and Ono Sato. And then the next biggest jump was Ryuden, moving up 5 spots. So not crazy movement on this Banzuke. Our biggest drops down the Banzuke: Onosho's dropping down 9 spots, Meisei dropping 7, and Takanosho and Asanoyama both dropping down 6 ranks. No Rikishi stayed the same rank after a 7-8 record for the 2nd consecutive Basho.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
And, I mean, I don't think so. I think it was
not
weird.
Crazy weird, but I feel like we usually have at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think it was weird that we had so many for so long. But I didn't predict any over the past 2 Basho. It just didn't make sense for any of them to stay in the same rank. 7 Rikishi are going to be at their career high ranking this Basho: Ura, Atami Fuji, Gonoyama, Ichi Yamamoto, Chura no Umi, Ono Sato, and Shimazu Umi. The last 2 will be making their Makuuchi debut. You'll notice that as we went through this Banzuke, I didn't list any snub of the Banzuke candidates or any luck of the Banzuke candidates. I just frankly don't think there were any on this Banzuke. Everybody ended up where they should. I don't think anybody could really hold a grudge this Basho. If we wanted to, maybe Takanosho snub of the Banzuke because he got over-demoted, but he was supposed to be over-demoted.
I was going to say the only thing I could think of is Koto no Waka and Daisho switching for something that happens so rarely that you couldn't even find examples to compare it to.
No, I had the 2 examples, and I had those 2 same examples back in Kyushu of 2022, which is why I didn't switch Waka Takakage and Hoshoryu. I just didn't read my notes good enough when I went back and looked at that case.
That's how deep we have to stretch for it.
Right.
And even if you did have the data, of course we see it better in hindsight, but like coming into it was like, how often does somebody get demoted for a winning record? Once ever, or twice ever in our, like, in the realm that we search for data? Like, it's I don't know. I think the Daisho is the closest I would say to any of these, because he did his job. He did what he was supposed to stay at his rank. He just got bumped anyways.
Yeah. But I'm not gonna just throw in snub of the Banzuke, luck of the Banzuke when I don't. There just weren't any of this. This Banzuke is like,
you don't have to give out special
once in a lifetime. Yeah, once in a lifetime kind of event where everything just really lined up really well. We're not going to see
once in a lifetime if you're like 6 years old.
When was the last time we had a Banzuke that lined up this good?
I'm sorry. Sorry, specifically the Koto no Waka Daisho thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was talking about the overall Banzuke. I mean, like I said, guess the Banzuke. Highest winning score ever. Probably the highest average score on any Guess the Banzuke.
Very cool.
Which that goes back to maybe the 90s. Let me check real quick how far back it goes. Not like Guess the Banzuke is a recent thing.
I would love to get my hands on like all of that data and like see what see what other trends can be pulled from that.
Yeah, their archives go back to Haru of 1998. The first time they did it. They had 6 total players. They broke 100 players for the first time in Kyushu of 2003. And they stayed over 100 for a while. And then in 2008, Reign of Hakuho, people got bored. They dropped off down in the double digits. And then they finally came back 2015 to 100 people for one basho only, and then back down in the double digits. And then Kyushu of 2019 is when it came back into triple digits and hasn't gone away.
And almost at 200 now. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's almost at 200 at this point. It's really been growing in popularity. And it looks like I started doing Guess the Banzuke right before it started going back into triple digits. And we've been podcasting about this for a while. I'm going to attribute some Guess the Banzuke growth in popularity to the Grand Sumo Breakdown podcast.
Those guys have been killing it the last few years.
Absolutely. I hear that they've got the number 1 ranked Guess the Banzuke guy as part of their crew.
Yep. Real feather in the cap for everyone who works on that podcast, that they have a guy that does that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody deserves credit for this.
Especially that one guy who guesses what the worst prediction is going to be. Because this time around, I know you have it written here, but I've been waiting for it. My guess was, I think you're thinking too hard on Meisei.
Yeah. Yep. And guess what? I was thinking too hard on Meisei.
Bingo.
Also thinking too hard on Asanoyama. Yeah, the 4 Rikshi that I didn't get correct at that, or at the correct numerical rank, were Shodan no Umi, Asanoyama, Hiro de Umi, Meisei, and they were all caught up in me just overcomplicating things.
Yep. There's always the one specific just trap within the Banzuke that ends up being like 3 pages of notes.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, that was the one.
Yep. All right. So that is going to wrap up our coverage of the Hatsu 2024 Banzuke, but that is not going to wrap up our coverage by any means for the Hatsu 2024 Basho. This Basho is going to be starting on January 14th, the latest a Basho can start. But before that...
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Fully 2 weeks after the start of the year.
Yeah,
is it just because of the day of the week where it lines up?
Yeah, because the month starts on Monday, and the Basho is always the second Sunday of the month.
There you go.
Yep. But there's going to be plenty of Grand Sumo Breakdown coverage between now and the start of the Basho. You've got this episode. You're going to have our award show that should be coming out right at the beginning of the new year. And you're going to have the preview for the Basho coming out probably the week after that. Our newsletter for the past 2 months will be coming out as well. Jake, you've got more info on that.
Yeah, just because of the holidays and travel, that'll be right up against the end of the month. Might even be my first one missing the month. It might actually not be able to come out in December. Plenty going on that I'm sure is understandable, being that I'm not at home and that there's a lot to do. But regardless, that'll be coming out covering the last 2 months, which included 3 amateur tournaments and our end of the year awards. So it's going to be a pretty packed one.
A beefy newsletter.
A beefy newsletter. And as I always say, make sure to contact one of us if you would like a hard copy of the newsletter.
And as I always like to say, make sure that one is Jake.
Yes, if you're going to contact anybody on Grand Sumo Breakdown that is Jake, can help you out with getting a hard copy of the newsletter if you like. If it's one that you're in or something like that, just reach out. We don't print very many of them, but I know that they're cool souvenirs for the people that like to have them.
Yep.
So,
and
that's all I got.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast listening service. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell on YouTube. Get my cat out of here. You can also find us on social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Search for Grand Sumo Breakdown. We have a blog, grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.org. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, you can shoot us an email at grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail at 805-613-7866. That is 805-613-SUMO. Everybody have a happy and safe new year.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time, throw your salt high
and keep moving forward.